Take it away.
Okay. Pretty much been said, but I would like to know what levels you teach. So, Jesse,
I teach middle school band.
okay, and Melanie, middle school, and I did middle school and high school. I currently do high school, so I tried to gear it towards just very generic. But since I know that you both do middle school, I can kind of talk more on that than the high school avenue. Um, so I do a kind of a unique thing. I go to the elementary school in the morning, and I teach pre-K through fifth grade, and then after then I go to the high school and assist Patrick Watkins. It's pretty interesting way of doing music, but it's very cool to see the spectrum from little kids all the way up to high school. And then on occasion, I also go to the middle schools and help because we switch places, and I'll do some middle school work and they'll come and do the high school. So that's pretty cool. Um, the reason I wanted to do a program like this one about coming to band is I feel like one of the things that has made me more successful as a band director is the connection I have with the kids and how to get the kids to work for you, regardless of all the other stuff that happens. So they historically they just want to come to band class, and how do you get them in that mindset to make band that thing that they always want to come to that they wouldn't miss for the world. So that's kind of where I'm at with the program, with the presentation. And if you have any questions at any time, feel free to just pause me and ask them so that your question gets answered in a relevant uh, time frame. We're going to discuss the benefits of why it's important to have leaders, student leaders in the program, how to prepare them for that role they've been given, how to create a culture within the program that fosters the kids and what they want to get out of it, and then also to create that positive energy within the classroom. So those are some pretty big undertakings that I think that these are the ways that you keep students and these are the ways that you get students. And this is the way that you help you get them to work as hard as they can for you. So we kind of went over it a little bit, but I do work in Alexander County. I had got my bachelor's in Berea College in music ed. I have a master's from the University of North Carolina in Greensboro. And then the East West program that I built, there were 8 kids when I showed up. And then when I left that program, there was between 50 and 60 every year. And they just really just wanted to be there. So how to get from point A to point B. So I worked in a small school system for that all those years, and now I'm in the bigger system. And so I'm used to both ways. And I'm in my 15th year of teaching, about halfway through. So the benefits, let's see, I've got to move my face out of the way. So here are some quick points I put for why it's important to have student leaders. And if you want to add some, I would welcome that. These are just ones that came off right away. If you give the students jobs or roles within the program or within your daily classroom, it will help you a lot and it'll give them a sense of ownership of how the classroom is ran. They love to get out and, well, my experience, a lot of them just want you to trust them that they're going to do. It could be leading the class in warm-ups. It could be as simple as I need to know who's here today, who wants to take attendance. Like it could be any of that. It could be the most minor job, but that kid makes that's why they feel important in your classroom. It doesn't matter what the role is. You could give them jobs that take just that one little thing off your plate. It could be we got a field trip coming up and I've just received 45 permission forms and I need to see who didn't give me one. Well, it could take the teacher 5 minutes out of your rehearsal time to figure that out, or you could just hand it off to one of your student leaders and say, I want you to tally these and tell me who doesn't have one. And then, or it could be anything. It could, well, after the concert today, I need these student leaders to take care of X, Y, or Z. And it just takes those things you don't have to worry about. Um, they'll get their guidance from you as a student leader of what to do and how to do it, but at the end of the day you just got to kind of let them do it, whether they succeed or they fail, but you're there to help them grow into that leader you want them to be. So they might not get it right. I know some people are nervous about letting students have those roles, or they're like, well, what if they mess it up, or they won't do it as good as me, or it's okay to let them do that, and it's okay to um, let them fail at it, learn how to do it better, and eventually you'll have created this culture of leadership where they just kind of know what to do after you've done it for a while. um, you could establish a whole team. It could be people. I know at the high school level with marching band or concert band, we establish a whole team of student leaders. So they're like the leader core, and they kind of have their roles that they do. But at a middle school level, you could do the exact same thing if you wanted to have specific student leaders that are in charge of certain things for the whole year, or you could change out their roles given the 9 weeks or whenever you wanted to. You could also let the students decide what the roles need to be. I used to sit them all down and say, okay, what are some things that you could help me with? What are some things that y'all could take off my plate? And they would come up with the things themselves. Like one of them was in charge of attendance, one in charge of uniforms, one in charge of music. The dreaded, I've lost my music, I need another one. Make a kid do that. That's finding that part. Or it could be one time they thought they needed a group of students to help energize the band, and they called themselves the Energizers. And their whole job was to lead warm ups and do all that crazy dancing stuff that the kids wanted to do for 5 minutes at the beginning. And they were the Energizers. And they took it real serious. They led warm ups, stretches, they led games, they brought the energy, and they just knew that was their role and they gave it to themselves. One kid was in charge of making sure all the equipment got from point A to point B. So he was the equipment manager and he needed help. So he would go out in the band and find helpers. So then he became the minion leader. And they take ownership of these roles, and then I didn't have to worry that the equipment was where it needed to be because that kid was in charge of it. So I knew because I trained him that it was going to happen. And if it didn't, it was a learning experience for everybody. Um, if you do have the leadership team, we have a chain of command in our leadership team where the band director doesn't have to handle every single iota of everything that happens in the program. So we have our students go to their team and they work up the chain of command on that stuff that you really don't need to handle. Like there's things that the kids can handle themselves and it doesn't have to come directly to you. So I have some kids in those roles where it's kind of handled before it ever got to me. Of course, we do handle the big major stuff you don't want to trust kids with, but they know what that stuff is. Most importantly, with student leaders, you want to train them. You want to teach them how to do it. You want to keep a communication with them in the process. They need to be able to come to you and say, well, I was leading my peers and this happened and here's what I did. And then you can walk them through the process. Well, next time let's do it this way, or give them suggestions. And then also believe that they can do it. So even at the middle school level, I would have my leaders, I would have my section leader, and I didn't call it that, but I just had those kids that I knew could go out in the hall and teach the material and help their peers. And I would talk to them about, well, how would we do this? What do you need to do to kind of help them through it? and we would just talk about it. So those are the main benefits that I like. Do y'all have any other ideas, or have you had student leaders and you saw some other benefits?
One thing I've enjoyed watching this year is I have a handful of students that really love being on the podium and leading warm-ups, even as middle school students. And they've seen high school kids be drum major. So whenever I'm not ready for class, there are just a select few kids that will jump on the podium and they'll get things started without me. And it's good. They do a great job. Normally that's a scary thing to watch, but it, some of these kids just do a really, really good job getting everything going. Once they've seen it happen, they can work it all themselves. So mine's always kind of been on the opposite side. While I'm finishing checking the field trip forms, this kid's jumped on the stand and taken my spot while I wasn't looking.
Both ways. But what if you had someone doing field trip forms and someone leading the group for warm ups? And then you could handle that kid over there that just doesn't have it together.
I was going to be enjoying a nice drink in my office. Water.
But I think the kids, they want to be part of it. They want those responsibilities. And if we don't give them those responsibilities, then what is it that we're really doing? We're just barking at them all day. And are we developing any kind of skill set past, here's your instrument, let's play it? So I think you got to give them those responsibilities. I think it's important that you let them do that. And that's good. It shows your ability to not have to be in command all the time. It reflects on, they'll start doing things that you do, and then you realize, oh, I probably shouldn't be doing it that way, because they're just going to copy what you do. Like, oh, do I really say those things?
At the middle school level, have you had problems with students who didn't get along, or somebody trying to lead and it just, the others weren't cooperating, and what did you do in those situations?
In the middle school level?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be more careful in middle school because they haven't been around long enough. Like, I think I would always precursor the very first time they ever do it, like in 6th grade. I would explain to them what it is they're doing and what the expectation is. You always have to set that expectation first. And then I float around. And so then if I see a problem happening, I can address it then. But most of the time, I would say the kids, when they go out and they're supposed to teach themselves, and I put one of them in charge, for the most part, the other kids know why they're in charge, and they tended to do pretty good with it. And I didn't have a whole lot of issues. And if it was a consistent problem, like there are a few kids that wouldn't listen to the teacher, let alone a student, uh, some of those kids responded better to the students. And you wouldn't think that, but there might be that kid in the classroom that's so lost at playing their instrument, but they don't want everyone in the class to know it. So they sit back there and they cause a problem because they don't want anybody to know they don't know it. So then you're calling them out in front of everybody. But if you put them in the hallway with one or two other kids, the other kids are going to pull them along and help them. That's just the nature of the kids. And then the program, I had a culture in the program that was all inclusive, all positive, be nice, and I didn't have it happen just because of the way that I managed it from the start, from the day they walked in the room. But the problem I'm having now is I'm going into a program that's already been established, trying to recreate the wheel. So you can't trust the kids they're gonna do exactly the way you want them to do it. But if you started them in the very first year you ever had them, and you create that culture that when I did 6 through 12, I created it early and it just went forever. So by the time they were in high school, they weren't bickering. They were listening. I mean, yeah, you got your kid that doesn't want to do it and they want to play on their cell phone. So you just handle that when it comes. But for the most part, they wanted to help each other. Kids want to help their peers. Um, and if I knew there was a kid that just wasn't gonna work with their other peers, they would have like a lone practice time. They would go to my office and play or something like that.
My other question is, what did you do to find time to train your student leaders? Did you do it outside of school, or did you do it? I don't know, did you have a certain time you did things?
Yeah, let's see, for the high school level, we bring them in before all the other kids get there. And we have like a leadership training day or 2 days or however long you want to do it. But I would train them then. For middle school, I never established a direct team. I always wanted to, I just never got around to that part. But I would basically take a few minutes of class to explain what the given role was and how to execute it properly, and just keep that constant dialogue of, well, this student's going to lead class today. Here's what you do as a peer for this student. And if you're in this role, here's what you should do. And so I would use 1 or 2 students that I knew were comfortable as my guinea pigs, and I would teach them in front of all the other kids. Here's how you do it. Now say this, now do this, and just teach that one kid, and the rest of them watch. And it kind of, the more they see it, the better they get. And there'll be kids that don't want to get up there at all. And then eventually they all want to get up there. Because at beginning, you've got your few that just really want everybody to look at them. Well, let everybody look at them while leading the group in their skills. And if they do something crazy, go, well, I'm sorry you decided to do that. We won't let you do it now. We'll have somebody else do it. I mean, it's even your little class clowns, if you got them in front of the classroom and put them on the podium, you never know what you'll get. You might actually have someone who's a really solid leader. It's just they don't know what to do with it when they're sitting in the classroom. So I would, at the middle school level, I would train them as we went. Or I would go around to the sectionals and go, okay, who's your student leader? Sometimes I let them pick themselves. And how's it going? Are we all listening? Are we all trying? Or you would hear them all practicing something different at the same time. And I would go and re-instruct, okay, is this the best use of our time? But after a little while of doing it, just like anything, they get into a routine and they understand what the expectation is. But there's always that redirect. Well, no, that's not what we're doing. We're going to come back. This is what we're supposed to do. So there's always that time. But in middle school, I had a lot of student leaders with small groups. You're the only band director. There's a lot of them. We had all the instruments together. I wanted to focus on the brass. Well, the woodwinds are sitting there twiddling their thumbs. Well, they could be out practicing with each other and doing something. So I used to access that a lot because there wasn't more than one. I also had them lead the warm-ups. At one point I had a board that just said what the roles were in the classroom, and then they would sign up and they would keep that role for a week or 2 weeks, and they would go, okay, I'm going to be the warm-up person this week, and they just knew they were going to do it. So then they could prep themselves for it. Or I'm going to be in charge of making sure if someone needs a method book that I get it for them, or whatever the role is. Whatever annoys you the most and you're sick of doing it, just give them that role. Like, I used to get so sick of them saying they didn't have a pencil, or they can't find a piece of music, or my method book's in my mom's car in my trunk. Well, there's another one. Go get it. Where is it? Well, ask Susie. She's the method book guru. She'll tell you what to do. Like, there's got to be a kid for everything. So they can do the work. Just let them. Any other questions on that one?
I've got one just perspective from your side. Have you ever assigned a kid to a job that annoys you, and then that kid gets annoyed in the job?
Yeah, the music librarian.
Yes, and then what do you do for that kid to make them enjoy the position more?
um, I don't know. Tell them to ask a buddy to help. Go get
Keep passing it down the
yeah.
line.
The job that annoys me the most is I forgot my music or I flushed it down the toilet. Look at it, it's all wet. Well, I'm gonna want to pack that whole folder again. Let Deshaun do it. So most of the time it annoys me, but it doesn't annoy them because they're not used to having jobs like that, important jobs.
That's
They
true.
usually didn't get annoyed. They wanted to sort the music and put it back in order. It was fun. It was fun. I was like, okay, here, you're in charge of putting this in score order. Yay! I had a kid that was a neat freak and he loved to organize the storage closet. So he would just go, that was his happy place, and I would go, fine, whatever, do you boo? I ain't doing it. So the kids won't get annoyed by it. They'll get annoyed by the same kid over and over and over. So then you got to ask yourselves, well, what's the consequence? What could be the consequence for this kid repeating this action over and over and over? And then you talk to the kids about it. Well, what should happen next time he asks you for music? Well, I'm gonna, I don't know, something, come up with something. Make them sing the alphabet in front of everybody. I don't, something crazy.
My new thing is I make the kids do some chore in the band room.
Yeah.
Empty trash cans, clean up the floor, make the stands look pretty. So now they don't even ask me outright. They say, I'm going to go clean the stands up because I need a new copy, which is great.
it and they don't, they want to have what they want to do, then you just gear them into doing what you need them to do. So I think there's a lot, I don't know, I might be speaking offhand, I don't know, I can't speak for people, but I think a lot of people are nervous about letting the children manage things because they're like, well, what if they mess it up? What if they this? What if they're not nice to their peer? Well, that's life. We have to train them. I did have an issue once with a teenager not being the greatest leader and the parent was concerned, but I just handle it as, well, we're teaching the kids how to be humans and how to be working on something together. I'm sorry that this happened. I will address it. I will retrain them and we'll go from here. But kids are going to be kids, but at the same time, what if they were like responsible for something? And why not let them do it? Just give them a job. They love jobs. Like I had a girl today. I have these like flashcards with the rhythms on them, and I would show one to the percussion, and then I would like drop it in the floor because I don't have time to organize it. And then all my stuff just kept falling in the floor, and it bothered her so much she couldn't stand it. And then the second I was done, she's like, "I'm gonna clean that up for you now." I was like, "Thank you," but it's like I could have said, "Hey, Lydia, you clean that up," and she would have done it, no complaining. That's just the type of atmosphere that it is. So I don't know. I just think it's important. I'm gonna go to the next slide. Maybe. Here is kind of what my leadership core looks like. And this is for marching band specifically, but it could be for anything. So of course you have your director up here that handles everything, and then I've got my drum majors underneath the director. And then we've got 3 captains for each of the big groups. And then under there, we are also going to have section leaders. So I teach the whole band from the get-go. Here's the chain of command. If you need music, go to your section leader. If you need to know what time to show up, go to your section leader. If one of your peers in your group is having a conflict with you, go to your section leader. If your section leader can't help you, their job is to go to the captains of the big groups. And the section leader goes to the captain and goes, hey, the flutes are having this issue amongst themselves. I tried to help, but I couldn't help. Can you help? So then that other person steps in and helps. Well, if the issue's not solvable by them, they go to the drum majors who have more training and more experience. If the drum majors can't handle it or they feel like it's something that really needs to be addressed, they bring it to us. But we, the directors, do not um, do all those little things. By the time it's made it up this chain, we're only handling the big issues that the kids can't solve themselves. Big drama sometimes, or stuff does come directly to us. You can kind of imagine what kind of stuff that is. But if a kid can't find his uniform, I ain't bothering it. I'm not going to do it. If you don't have your music, not me. If you don't have your music, not me. If you need another permission form, not me. If you need to turn it in, not me. So, like, there's somebody in charge of everything. Um, if you need to know what time to come back for rehearsal, ask somebody else. If you don't know what we did in class today, ask somebody else. So like all these things, you can't micromanage the whole group. You're gonna go crazy, and use the students to manage that for you because you really don't need to. Like in middle school, I had a kid misses one day. Well, they need to ask their other person in their group. That's just something they just do. Go ask the other person. Don't come directly to me. Or, hey, we're handing out new music. They just know, well, you need to grab one for the person that's not here because that's your job. Or the music person's job. And then when that person shows up, well, here's your music. So you can establish this kind of chain, I think, at any level. It wouldn't be as extensive, of course, in middle school because you don't have all of that going on. But in marching band, it's very necessary to have those different things. Like there's things that the band director just really doesn't need to know happens. It just happens, and the kids handle it. So that's just an example of how we structure our core. Now, when we started at Alexander, they had the first two. They didn't have these. So Mr. Watkins and I established these last year, and they didn't have section leaders. That's next year. So we're growing it every year. We're adding another tier. So we didn't throw it all out at all of them and go, okay, everybody's a leader. We trained the drum majors, then we trained the captains, and now we're going to train the section leaders, and it's tiered. So it's important to at our level at least to have that chain. What are your potential red flags for having student leaders? And I think we addressed some of these. The student ego. You put a kid in charge and they think they're in charge of everything and everybody and all of it. So that could be an issue depending on the kid. Sometimes when they're leading their peers, they have friend drama, and the friend drama comes into band, and that creates issues. And just lack of experience. If you're starting it in 6th grade, those kids may not have ever had a chance to do that kind of leadership. Maybe in their classroom, go lead a reading group or something. But as far as like teaching others, I don't know how much of it they've had. The positives, of course, always outweigh that. You develop 21st century skills, so you can put that in every thing you ever turn in. And if you wanted to create leadership next year, you could put developing 21st century skills in band. Look at me go, and all your people will like it. It takes more off your plate. It creates a sense of ownership among the kids. Like without student leaders, you're in charge and they're all just there. But with student leaders, it kind of gives them all, you're all important and we're all working on this together and everybody matters. So I'm not going to stand up here and bark at you. All of you have some role that you have, even if it's just playing your instrument. But the student leaders give those particular kids even more ownership. And it helps build rapport. you can have your flute group, and they end up being this like clique, or it's like all the woodwinds stick together, and it just builds rapport. I feel like if you didn't have student leaders, I don't know, because I've always had student leaders, but you would, sense of cohesiveness is there because your student is leading their peers, and it's not just coming from the adult. Are there any questions about that? See any red flags with your program if you had student leaders? Okay. Training the student leaders, I'm gonna go on that for just a little bit. I meet my student leaders early before everybody else gets there for training and discussion. And this is geared towards the high school. And then we meet with them weekly or just check in. If you did this at a middle school level, I would say maybe spend a little bit of time training the whole group. Like, we're going to have moments where I'm going to ask you to lead your peers. What would that look like? How can you make an impact with your peers? And just spend 20 minutes having those conversations, because they do need to be taught. This leadership is, people are innate leaders, but they also need to learn how to do it. So it's just like everything else. So there's various YouTube videos. Like I liked this one.
The Customer Journey Builder is chock full of features that allows you to work your magic from scratch.
You're the leader. It's on you. You didn't pick leadership. It picked you. You're called for this. Break out of your shell. You have what it takes. You were born with it. It's in you. A seed. Water it. Embrace it. Invest in your success. Study leadership. Read books. Watch videos. Listen to podcasts. Create your leadership brand. Then live that brand every day. Make a massively positive impact on your team. Love your team. Pour into your team. Lead them. They don't want a manager, they want a leader, a heroic figure, a role model. Be that. Build a championship team. See the potential in every person. Pull it out of them. Coach them. Inspire them. Teach them. Demand excellence from them. And all along the way, be the example. You set the tone. You cast the vision. You bring the attitude, effort, and energy. So start moving. No regrets. They will follow you. Make the culture your number one priority. It's your performance environment. It's what provides the energy and passion needed to fulfill your plan and achieve your mission, to make your vision a reality. If you invest in the culture, the performance will follow. Championship leaders build championship teams that drive championship performance. Focus on the culture and execution of your team in order to capture the dream. You're the leader. It's on you.
And what I would do is I would show that to the kids and just let them stew on it and talk about it. Get this back up. And then there's another link. Hang on. I'm not in presentation mode. And this link is another one. It's a girl just talking about how to lead your peers. There are so many out there. These are just some of the ones we actually sent this one to our kids already and told them to watch it. It's like 12 minutes long. And then Dr. Tim, I'm sure you've seen his name a lot. He has really good resources, and I use this book about leadership, and it's like a workbook. Get down here to the meat of it. So it's like a workbook about leadership, and I don't like to do like all the worksheets, but I might print off certain parts of it, and then we'll just have open conversations about it and what they know about leadership, because they only know what they've seen, like who their leaders are. And if their leaders aren't people who have been good leaders, then they don't know what's expected. So I like this resource. It's a good resource. And a lot of times I use it, but I also ask them what their good leaders are. And I will share this thing so you can have the link. When I do my leadership training, it looks something like this. I have, like, we play games. I think games are very important. I played games in middle school and high school. A lot of people think, well, we're going to play a game, we're going to waste our time, and we won't get our music learned. But if you play games and you build that culture and that sense of rapport among the kids, they're going to learn their music faster and better because they're happy and they're having fun, and band is fun because you play games. And so this is a leadership game. It doesn't look exactly like that, but I didn't know how to explain it. But basically, you put a bottle on the floor, you get a ring that goes over the bottle, and you put a ball on top. And there's strings tied to the ring that all the kids have one string. And then all you tell them is, I need you to move the tennis ball or pick up the tennis ball, but you can't use your hands. You can only touch the string. But you don't tell them how. It must have taken that first group, because this was the first time they'd ever had any leadership training. It took them at least 10 minutes before they realized we should be communicating with each other, and it's a team effort. And so after they figured it out, they were real quick then, and then I started moving the bottle. Well, you got to move it over there now. Well, now you got to walk it down the hallway without dropping it. And that was like just the very first thing I did in leadership was like, hey, you're a leader, welcome. Here, let's play a game. And they think it's playing a game, but it's really got more. Because after the game is over, I ask, why is it important to work together to build this band program you want? Because in the beginning, they don't work together. They all want to be the leader, but they have to figure out their own sense. So I go through this presentation and I explain everything about leaders. Like, these are things they came up with. This was blank. So we just discussed what is a good leader, or who's been a good leader for you, and then they fill in the blanks. Then we say, okay, we have these leaders, what are their jobs? And then they wrote those in, and we just filled out all of this stuff, because your student leaders need to be on board with the goals and the mottos of the program, so that they will instill that in their peers, and everybody kind of has the same idea. This is very extensive for middle school, but pieces of it could be very beneficial. Like, you wouldn't go through the whole thing, because that's not the type of leader you're looking for right now. But the games are good. Like, this one is a game where I cut out all the different scenarios. This is a very effective way to train student leaders. I cut out the scenarios, I break them up into groups, and I want them to role play. And I'll say, okay, I want you to role play. You're leading a sectional, and one of your members keeps using their phone. You're the student leader, you're the student on the phone. How would you handle the problem? So then they role play it. And then that's where I have a moment to say, okay, your method was okay, but how could you have improved it? Because all of these scenarios are things that actually happen and have happened and will happen. So I just took scenarios from the band program and created them for the student leaders. And the scenarios in the role play, at first they're like, you want us to act out these things? Yeah, I want you to have a sectional right here in front of me, and I want to know how you're going to talk to your peers, and then I will tell you how you should talk to your peers. So and this one was actually really good. I had two teammates back to back. I gave one a pencil and a paper, and I gave an object to the other one, and I said, I want you to explain to your teammate how to draw this thing they can't see. So it was all about what words are you using and how concise are you being in your descriptions. Because if you're a student leader trying to lead a sectional and you use terms like tempo and your team doesn't know what tempo is, it won't have an effect whatsoever. So not to make any assumptions. And that one actually was really, really helpful. So I have a whole day of just straight up team planning. Minefield is one, I don't know if you played that one before. You blindfold one member and you put obstacles on the floor, and the other teammate has to tell them how to get through the minefield without kicking anything. But they can only use words. So it's about teaching the kids to be concise in their language and their directions. But you can use games as a way to get their point across all the time. So I did it in middle school. We played games in middle school too, just to build that rapport. And I can talk more on that in a minute. But there's a link to that training. I think I made the training visible for anyone with the link. Yeah, I did. So I don't care if you steal it. It's got Mr. Watkins' name in it.
Would you mind to share the link to this slideshow that's got that link included in it?
Yeah,
The whole thing?
Let me take
Whenever you have a chance, no big deal.
take a beat. I'm having trouble with my Apple computer that I'm not used to.
You could even email it to me when we're done.
That later. Let's see. Go back. Sorry, going the wrong way. Okay. So that was all about student leaders. Are there any questions? Okay. So the student leaders help make band more cohesive between you and the other students. So now it's about fostering the culture that lets the students help to create the band program they want to be part of. So I use student leadership to help inspire, and then I train them. We talked about that. I also, if you train a few of your students to do what you want them to do, the other students who are more of a follower will just follow suit. You don't even have to tell them to do it. So if you've got your 5 core people and you say, okay, everyone, this is what we're going to do, the other kids tend to just follow the crowd. So you got to pick who your 5 leaders are, and the rest will follow. The culture of just having peer leadership allows them to take charge of it. So without giving the students chances to lead, it's basically you just standing up there and them sitting in their chairs, and there's not that. It helps you also with conversations with the kids. You learn who the kids are when you stick them in front of the group. So it also builds that relationship with you and the students. You can ask the leaders or some of your students, the strong ones, or if you're in the high school, of course, your older members, to ask them, what is the goal of the program? Like, what do you want to get out of this band program? And if they all know what the goal is and they created the goal, then I think they'll have more ownership in when they come to band. Are they coming just to learn how to play an instrument, or are they coming to be a part of something? I think it's 2 different things. Like they might go to math class to learn how to do math, but do they have any say so as to how it's ran in all the classrooms? I don't know. But in the band room, they have an opportunity to express themselves and say, hey, Miss Weddington, I think it would be cool if, and I would go, actually, that is cool. Let's do that. That's a great idea. And then you make sure the kids know the other kids came up with that. I think long term and short term. How would you like to? Here's my idea. How can we make it happen? What do you have to contribute to it? And the kids let their dumb ideas happen, even if you think they're dumb. Every once in a while, give them their win. Go, okay, let's play that dumb song. That song that you really, really hate, but they love, like "We Will Rock You." Just let them play the song, Melanie. Have students introduce the plan to their peers. Let them do it. Say, okay, we have a plan for, I don't know, the band is going to play at this pep rally But the students are going to choose what we play, and they're going to choose kind of what we do, and then let the students introduce it to the other students, because they're going to help you build that excitement, because they got to be a part of it, so they're going to sell it to the others. And I think it's just really important to give them that ownership. And I also think it's important to create a positive culture in the classroom and out of the classroom, which is really hard to do because so many people are so negative all the time. And it's very, very hard, especially lately, to get past everything and just enjoy things. And sometimes one of my pet peeves is when I'm in the band room and I say, we're gonna play, I don't know, we're gonna play the Great Locomotive Chase today, and there's a kid in there that doesn't like it, and they go, "Oh, I hate that song." I don't let that happen at all. I knock it down before it even happens, because if one kid says they hate it, then 5 other kids hate it too. Or if one kid says, "Oh, it's so hot out here," then half the band is now too hot to function, and they all need water. It's just like in kindergarten. If one kid goes to the bathroom, they all got to pee, like all of them. You can't let one go, or they're all gonna go. So if you let one kid be negative in the classroom, then your whole classroom is going downhill real fast. And so I don't let them do that. No complaining whatsoever within earshot of me. And I tell them, you're going to fake it till you make it. And if you hate it, I don't want to know about it. And if you really and truly hate it, see me after class and have a side conversation. But in here, you're going to put a smile on your face. So now we're all going to play, or I'll say, we're going to get up and do whatever. And then I expect every one of them to go, yes, let's do it, even if it's stupid. And I explain that to them from the get go. So by the time I had 6th graders into high school, it didn't matter what crazy thing I asked them to do, they were doing it. We would do yoga in band camp. I would go, okay, when you do some yoga, y'all aren't flexible enough. And so I would have all these teenage boys out there doing downward facing dog, and not one of them was like, this is stupid, because they knew there's a method to all of it. And if you just stay positive and you work through it, then it'll be okay. So on the positive culture, I created this right here is the 4 things that we're going to be when we're in the band room. And I started these 4 things in middle school at East Wilkes. So I don't have classroom rules. I have these 4 things. Be respectful, be responsible, be kind, be your best. And if you are exuding those 4 characteristics, then you can accomplish anything, and everything applies. So, and I have to sit down and tell them what they mean, and I have to explain it exactly what all these mean in my own words. And then Mr. Watkins adopted it too, so he explains it in his own words. But we made this as like a sign, and it hangs in the band room so the kids see it. So let's say you're in class one day, and one of your trumpet players looks at another trumpet player and goes, "Man, are you ever going to get this right?" All we do is we point to the sign and we just say, "Be respectful." Or we point to the sign, they sit down in their chairs and they're all like, "It's Monday after spring break, I got to play my instrument, really?" And I'm like, "Are you being your best right now? Because I'm giving you my best, and I expect it in return." So these are the way you are. Just be these things, be human, and everything will be okay. And then I really enforce stay positive, work hard, make it happen. So if I get that kid in there that's like, oh, I'll go, "I heard someone groan." "Who groaned?" "Somebody groaned." And then we all look for who groaned. And then I go, "You groaned. It was you." And then they go, "Oh, I didn't. I'm happy. I'm happy." And I'll say, sometimes in the middle of class, I'll just say, "Stand up." And they'll be like, "Huh?" And then I'll say, "Sit down." And then I'll do it again about 50 times, however long it takes for all of them to realize we're going to do this thing, whether you like it or not. So there's no point in complaining, because we're all going outside in the heat. There's no point in complaining because we're all going to play the song. And when they complain, I don't like it at all. So trying to stay positive even when you hate it. And I'll go, yes, I know we played that eighth note passage 50 times, but we're going to do it again and it's going to be wonderful. And I just don't let them complain. So that's hanging on the wall too. Just having that, I guess you would call that the motto or the motto, or I don't know what you want to call it. But in the middle school, I had the bees hanging on the wall, and I had stay positive, work hard, make it happen painted on the wall. So I could just point to it when a kid was being negative. And then they would instantly smile and grin at me and realize what they did, because in their life, a lot of adults are like that. And it's a lot of, woe is me, life is terrible, I'm going to complain about everything. But in the band room, it was, don't complain about it because it's not going to get you anywhere. Let's just do it anyway. So that's just kind of the culture I try to instill in them. Here are some things I just put things to quick little do this. It starts with you. The second you walk in that room and get up on that podium, or don't, the attitude and demeanor that you have, the kids will pick up on instantly. So you, no matter how you feel, even if you don't want to, you have to fake it until you make it, because you have to, they have to do it too. Everybody has their thing. This one, treat all students equal, even if little Johnny or Sally gets on your nerves. There's that kid that you're like, wow, you're really annoying. And you just keep smiling and you keep teaching them, because one day they'll either graduate or they might like be cool. They haven't got there yet. They're still middle school. So they might be cool, you never know, or they might not. And when they graduate, you tell them not to come back. We talked about the motto or the expectation. I feel like we can't just assume the kids know anything, like even how to sit in your class. We can't assume anything. You got to teach them every single little thing. You got to teach them how to think. You got to teach them how to be. And all of it is in band. And then eventually it goes to them in other places in their lives. But if we have the opportunity to teach these kids how to be human, and band is that avenue and band is that way it gets to them, then I think that's what it's all about. Like, playing a band instrument isn't only about playing a band instrument. You have an opportunity here to help them be humans, and they need to know what you expect at all times before it ever happens. I expect X, Y, or Z. And we're going to do this. I expect X, Y, or Z. And then you have to like be consistent with upholding those expectations. You have to say, okay, I expect you to attend all of our performances. Well, what happens if somebody doesn't? You have to have a plan for that, and you have to be consistent with everybody. Like, you can't treat one different than the other. But you also can't ignore those big things. If you ignore the big thing that little Sally did over there and little Johnny did the exact same thing, you have to be consistent. I've been saying this, fake it till you make it. I've been saying that quite a lot. Sometimes you just get tired and you're just tired of it. And the kids don't need to know that. They just need to think you live for band and you live to teach. And that's all you ever want to do all day, every day, in and out, whether you do or not. You got to. Team building games, I have a plethora of ideas for those if you want them. You can just email me or something. But we use a lot of team building games in band camp. I told Mr. Watkins he didn't do games. I don't think a lot of them do games. I think it's we have to finish our show and we have to learn all this music and we have to do all this marching. And so I introduced the idea of games. And we don't spend a lot of time. It's like 30 minutes, an hour maybe after lunch, where we have band camp and then we stop and we play games. And sometimes the games are team building games and sometimes they're just silly little games like wet this sponge, throw it down the line, fill up a bucket, and throw it back. and like they have the greatest time. We played water balloon volleyball, and they had sheets with water balloons on them, and you throw the water balloon to the other side, they catch it, and we throw it back and forth until it pops. And they would have played that game all day long. And you have teenagers out here playing these silly little games. They will play and do anything that you ask them to do because they just want to have fun and they want to be kids. And you might go, they're going to think this is stupid. Well, maybe so. But I guarantee you, they're going to like it, and they're going to act like it's stupid, but they're actually going to like it. And I start with little games. Like in middle school, we played the shoe game. Everybody take it in a circle, take off one shoe, and I'm going to say something. If it applies to you, switch shoe. No, put your foot in their shoe, but walk across the circle and stand at someone else's shoe. And then you see, oh, little Johnny has a dog too. So do I. Maybe we can be friends. And they just see these things. We would play anything. We would play sit in a circle, and someone leaves the room, and someone starts a motion, and then everybody else copies, and that person has to come in and guess who it was. It doesn't matter what little game it is, and it could take 5 minutes, it could take 20 minutes, but I think they're important in building the kids feeling like this is a group of people that do stuff together. And I know in middle school time is more limited than in high school, but I still made this kinds of stuff important. It might be we played for half the class and spent the last half doing some kind of silly little dumb thing that they thought was great, and then they want to come in and do it every day. Sometimes the things that we did were with steady beat, because kids are born with the ability to do music, but if it's not nurtured all through elementary school, then when they get to you, they don't have a good sense of steady beat. So it might just be that we do things with the steady beat, with things like that, just to get them out of their chairs and moving. When's the last time you taught a band class and had them get out of their chair during the class? In that 40-minute time frame, were they sitting there the whole time? Did you have them move? Did you have them get up? I don't know. But it's important because they start to get tired just like you would.
Jennifer,
Yeah.
one game I just want to tag because I stole it this year and it was great. She
my
played a game with her high school kids where they blew up beach balls and put a question on each one of the colored sections of the beach ball. You throw the beach ball, and whatever question you're looking at, when you catch it, you have to answer. And I used that with my middle school kids to get to know them, since I hadn't had this new set of kids. I was 2 grade levels were beginners this year for me. And it was a great way for me to learn those kids and to start getting names with the people. And the kids enjoyed that game so much that every day at the end of school, they said, "Can we have the box?" I used a box instead of a beach ball. We want to throw the box around and ask each other questions.
They'll do stupid stuff like that. But it you get to learn the kids, and then they get to learn you. I think we get so hyper focused on, well, this music has to get learned, and this kid has to play this scale, and we have this time until the concert. But at the end of the day, you're teaching kids who have already been sitting all day long, and those games are good. Like this is my game. We call it, Patrick wanted to call it the Olympic Games. So we had our 3 teams that were basically the instruments. I'm gonna do it different next year because percussion there were not enough of them. But basically, I have a slide for every game that I do, and I can share it with you. Like there's so many games that the kids love, and the one at the end that I added recently, Sticker Day. The kids love Sticker Day. Sticker Day is where you give all your, I don't know, it could be your leaders, it could be you, like another band director, you give them a roll of stickers and they walk around. And then when they see a kid doing anything remotely good, you put a sticker on them. And then at the end of the day, you count how many stickers you got. And those kids were all, those teenagers, these 18-year-olds, were all about how many stickers do I have now? And the adults were all about passing out these stickers. So it's just little things like that. If you want it, these are all the games in my brain as of right now. And then I keep adding them as I either come up with more or find more that I like or remember about games I've played in the past. So this is my arsenal of games for the last 15 years because I always do games. And the kids look forward to it. And I have student leaders who are in charge of games. Their job is to facilitate and prep and blow up water balloons and whatever the job is. You're the game person. And one year I had former students come back wanting to help. Well, I know what you can help me with. How about you be in charge of the games? Because I can't deal with that too. And so this year I was in charge of the games because Patrick was in charge of the other stuff. So I was able to be in charge of games, but next year I'm gonna let a kid do it, and that's their role. Hey, this is the game we're playing today. Even middle schoolers can play it. Like this one, everybody's it. Literally everybody's it. You run around tagging each other until there's only one person standing. And you can do that in 5 minutes in the middle school. You choose how you want to do it. Of course, instruments and junk, but or like pass the smile is something that you can do in the classroom, 5 minutes, get them laughing. It doesn't matter. Have you ever done that one where you hold hands and you squeeze it around the circle? Once you receive a squeeze, you pass a squeeze, and the squeeze has to go all the way around the circle, and you time it. And you go, okay, it took y'all 25 seconds to get that squeeze around the circle. I bet you could shave off 5 seconds of time. And then it leads you into explaining how if you would have just tried your hardest the first time, we wouldn't be doing this 5 other times. And it's just it's just stuff like that. That band is fun because we get to play games once in a blue moon. Or band is fun because my band director doesn't just stand up at the podium and bark at me the whole time. Band is fun because I get to be the leader today. Or whatever it is, band can be fun for every kid in there, whatever it means. Some kids, for my daughter, band is fun because she gets to play her instrument and just be in there. Like she didn't have to do anything particular. She likes it because it's band. But then there's other kids you got to entertain. So yes, you have to not be boring. So there is that. And then I just have some questions for y'all if you want to discuss, if you have any answers. How do you inspire the students to practice on their own at home? You want that one, or do you do this? Are the students aware of what your goals are? Did you tell them what your goal was? Do they know what it is? And how do you know they know what it is? Do they all feel important, regardless if they can play or not? Regardless if they can't play more than 3 notes on the scale, do they still feel important? Is there a sense of respect from you to them, from them to you, and from them to each other, all the way down to the one that just joined yesterday? Or any other ideas for student leaders? Anybody want to speak on any of that? Or it just gets you thinking.
So one way that I make sure that every student knows what our goals are every single day is we're an Apple school district. And so we have Apple TVs, and on the Apple TV every day I have displayed a list of what we're going to do that day. And at the very top, underline, bold, italicized, exactly what our 3 to 5 goals are for the day. Whether that's we're going to make good tone, we're going to learn X amount of measures on this, or we're going to learn this new note, or we're going to learn what an accidental really is and where would they be and what are the rules about accidentals and things like that. And so every day they know exactly what the goals are, and they have a list of what we're doing that day so they can see where those goals are going to come into play throughout the rehearsal.
That's good. The kids want to know what they're going to do.
Yeah, a lot of my students, like myself, are very OCD in nature and need to have a structure every class. And so that helps us to follow a specific plan and they know exactly what to expect out of each day.
So you would have had a problem with me throwing all my flashcards on the floor.
I would have, yeah. But so would my students because they feed off of me. And so they would have fixed it before I would have even had to say anything too.
What about your goals for the actual program? Like beyond just what are we doing today? What about where do you want the kids to be at the end of all this?
Usually, we break it down throughout the year. We do a lot with, okay, so this is our new, we usually do a concert cycle each quarter because I'm crazy. And so we break it down for what we need to do for a specific quarter. We do have band most of the time all year long. I had back surgery this year, and so it was a little bit more of semester based. But normally, like we discuss it in the beginning, we create a band handbook, and then they sign acknowledging that they read and agreed to the band handbook. So they helped create what we're going to do throughout the year, and they agreed that they all want to uphold those goals and work towards it together.
Okay. Have you ever done student leadership in the middle school?
I haven't done it specifically with like assigned roles. My students, especially my older students, like to volunteer for different roles. So like my 8th graders, they always volunteer to stay after school and help with setting up for concerts and making sure that all the programs got folded and fixing the music stands because the 6th graders didn't know how to do it in the last block of class that day, and different things like that. Throughout the year, 6th graders, I inevitably have for my last period every day, eventually learn how to appropriately put away the music stands and things like that. But it's really helpful for me. I usually have an 8th grader who really is just dying to skip PE that day that wants to come in my class, and they'll sit through rehearsal and they'll play the whole time. And it helps to have a student leader that will demonstrate how things are done for the younger students, especially. And then I use that as a time to say, hey, you should go show them how you do this.
Yeah.
And they can help with different sectionals and things. I have a weird situation this year where I have random grade levels in every class. And so it's a lot more of student leaders based on experience and not necessarily grade. And so I can send students that have been in band for 3 years with the students that just learned how to blow into the correct end of the clarinet and get them to help them with hand placement and things like that, a little bit more detail work that the older kids are just used to, that the younger kids just need some more individualized attention for.
Yeah, that's a good way to use that situation to your benefit.
Yeah, it's very helpful for me. Looking forward to it going back to grade level separate, but this year it's been helpful.
Yeah. And then I just had more, but are there any questions for me? I think we're out of time.
I just wanted to know, Jennifer, have you used anything with Stephen Covey, or have you been exposed to Lighthouse schools?
Yeah, my middle school that I was in was a lighthouse school.
Okay.
So they encouraged the student leadership, but I was already doing it.
I
And
figured.
that came about. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think almost all middle schools in our county are now lighthouse schools.
oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Mhm. If not all of them, I think at least 3 of them are.
That's great. I feel like you have a mini Lighthouse school in your band programs.
Yeah. I
Anything
appreciate all
else?
your time.
Jennifer, that was outstanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Plan on presenting at NCMEA for the chapter, okay?
Okay.
That's awesome. And your resources, I can't wait to look at the link and delve into it a little bit more. Jesse, Melanie, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys so much.
Next
You want me to-
month,
Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you want me to send the link to Melanie and then she sends it out? Is that what we? Okay.
We'll have a business meeting and Dr. Myra Roden next month. And she's going to talk about her Athena Leadership Camp and Honor Band. So I'll be sending out information about that as well. But thank you so much, Jennifer. This was wonderful. And thank you, ladies, for being here. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it too.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Nice job, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.